Remember the very first essay you wrote? Yeah, that report on koalas was adorable. But was what you wrote well structured? Well, thankfully you've come a long way from that first essay. Now you can apply all your writing experience to the ACT test. 11 out of the 35 rhetorical skills questions on the test will be organization questions. These questions will test you on the elements of a well-organized passage by specifically addressing the structure of sentences, paragraphs, and the passage as a whole. You'll also need to work with topic and concluding sentences. You'll be asked to reorder sentences within a paragraph, move whole paragraphs, and finally find transitional, introductory, and closing sentences that fit best within the context of the passage. To refresh your memory, a topic sentence tells you what the rest of the paragraph is about and relates back to the thesis. A concluding sentence summarizes the main idea and provides a definitive end to the paragraph. You'll need to recognize these types of sentences because some of the questions will ask you to choose the best topic sentence and/or the best concluding sentence for a given paragraph. Identifying topic and concluding sentences will also serve you well when you're asked to organize paragraphs. Now, let's look at a typical paragraph organization example that you'll find on the ACT. Here's an excerpt from Warmth in the Attic, an essay about a trip to Tromsø, Norway. As you see here, the sentences in this paragraph are each numbered. First, let's read this excerpt. That summer, my days weren't spent sitting in a lifeguard chair, spinning a whistle around my finger. Tromsø, like other towns, may boast it never sleeps, but for Tromsø, it seems to be true. Although I feared that the time would drag, the opposite was true. I know I slept less that summer than I ever have, yet I didn't feel tired. In fact, my days weren't spent working or sitting at all. Whether that was the result of the midnight sun or the potently rich coffee, I'm not sure. The question that follows this passage asks, which of the following sequences of sentences makes the preceding paragraph most logical? The answer choices will be one for no change, followed by 3 series of numbers that reorder the paragraph. When you get one of these questions, remember that writing is subjective. You may think the paragraph should be organized differently than the writers of the test. So before you go rearranging the sentences on your own, check out the answer choices to save yourself from barking up a different tree. The first one is no change. Ask yourself if the paragraph makes logical sense as is. From what I just read, it seems like some of the sentences could use some reorganizing, so let's try the other choices. Notice how 2 of them begin with 1, 6. Let's check out how that sounds, because if it doesn't work, we can eliminate both options. Sentence 1 states, that summer, my days weren't spent sitting in a lifeguard chair, spinning a whistle around my finger. Followed by sentence 6, whether that was the result of the midnight sun or the potently rich coffee, I'm not sure. Well, those 2 ideas don't make logical sense together. It seems like we're missing some connections. We can probably eliminate both H and J, but let's try choice G before we make any hasty decisions. It begins with, Tromsø, like other towns, may boast it never sleeps, but for Tromsø, it seems to be true. That sounds like a good topic sentence, so go ahead and label it so you don't forget it. Then we move on to, although I feared that the time would drag, the opposite was true. That flows. Next comes, that summer, my days weren't spent sitting in a lifeguard chair, spinning a whistle around my finger. Right on to the next sentence, in fact, my days weren't spent working or sitting at all. Another supporting sentence on the same topic. Then, I know I slept less that summer than I ever have, yet I didn't feel tired. And finally, whether that was the result of the midnight sun or the potently rich coffee, I'm not sure. That's a good concluding sentence. Choice G it is. And remember that if a story is told chronologically, you can look for dates within the passage to help you find the most logical order. Remember that all these organization questions are testing your ability to think logically. And I bet you've got plenty of practice making logical arguments. Just ask your parents. Now, make sure you also practice a few of the hundreds of problems available throughout the course.